This episode is brought to you by Firefly Outdoor and Marine. Check out their full line of products, including their all-new shore stacker box, by going to their website at www.fireflymarine.com. Don't forget to use our discount code DECKTALK10 at checkout for your instant savings. Be seen with Firefly Outdoor and Marine, home of the #1 navigational lights on the water.
Hi, it's Chad Watts from Firefly Marine. Wanted to introduce you to a new product, our Firefly Shore Stacker Box. This is a box that has many different features. The top of the box is a tackle storage. The bottom box is to hold other lures that you want specific for what you're doing at the time. You can get drinks, snacks. Your battery goes in here. It's just your regular drill battery is what operates your normal stern light. Has an on and off switch, so you can turn it on and off. Also comes with a shoulder strap, but we also can lock this handle in so we can carry it without spilling everything out while we're on the end. Go to fireflymarine.com and get yours today.
What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. We have got to do a pre-recorded though tonight because Norman has something special going on here for this Thursday, and we'll let him talk a little bit about that. But guys, thank you for coming and watching another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. But if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
And I'm Norman Lee. That's right, Colin. Man, we have got a killer episode tonight. Let's get this thing started the right way, though. We have an Oklahoma kayak angler that is a true hammer when it comes to kayak fishing. Last year, 2023, he won the online Angler of the Year against some hammer kayak anglers. So, guys, we have Zachery Warren is joining the show tonight. And what is going on, Mr. Zachery? How you doing, brother?
What's up, brother? What's up, man?
Doing great, guys. It's good seeing y'all.
Good seeing you, man. It's been since the Classic since we've seen you last, and so it's nice to finally get to meet you. We talked on the phone quite a few times, but it's nice to actually finally get to meet you at the Classic, and we talked to you for a little bit, and try not to take too much of your time while you was at the Hobie booth, or wasn't it?
No, it was the Old Town booth.
Old Town. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Old Town, but man, get him in trouble with his kayak sponsor.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Classic. What exactly did you do at the Classic before we really kind of start talking a little bit about your fishing and all that?
Well, I just volunteered and worked and talked with people about kayaks and showed them some of our year models. And it's really fun getting to meet all the different characters out there. And, you know, there's a lot of smart young anglers you meet doing that too. And it was just a really good time. I just hung out and talked about fishing with people.
Yeah. And what you done, you actually done a video and sent it to us for the power pole, and so we're actually working on it here, trying to get that sucker up and going, and maybe you guys will see the video that Zach shot for the power pole for the kayak. Can you talk a little bit about it real quick, and we'll kind of just hit a little bit of your sponsors and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about the power pole. That it's not your traditional what people think of power poles on boats, but let's talk a little bit about it.
Well, it's a mechanical setup on the back of the kayak, and Old Towns are really easy to rig because they come with a spot already for it. So it's just 4 bolts, and it was ready to go. But I can remotely stick a spike in the ground off the back of my kayak and stop in shallow water. So it's really handy fishing in the wind and stuff like that. You're able to target windier areas in your kayak. And also like bed fishing and fishing in current and things of that nature, it can really come in handy getting you to hold a spot so you can effectively fish it.
Right.
Now that spike that he's talking about on his kayak too, and I'll add one thing to that. They work great on kayaks, but they're actually called a micro, and they'll actually work very well on any small application you have, smaller than like your traditional bass boat, John boat. If you have a bass tracker, any smaller application, they work great on as well, just like on the kayak. But one of the leading in the industry with power pole innovation, but the micro. And if you have a smaller application, they are well worth getting on your boat.
For sure. Now, because you were able to, like in the video, you were able to, like, because you was fishing, it looked like some grass or something like that you was fishing, if I remember correctly, that you was able to just stay in that one spot, and you had some pretty good wind blowing that day, and it just kept it right there. And how big or how long is that the rod that comes with it?
Well, when I bought it, I didn't know that there's a 10-foot pole, so mine is just an 8-foot pole.
Have you been able to, like, has the bass started spawning where you're at yet?
Yeah, in the south part of Oklahoma, I saw beds as early as like probably around the 10th of March.
Really?
Depending on the lakes, there are some deeper lakes, and this lake I was fishing is fairly shallow, but they're still spawning in quite a few areas in Oklahoma right now. I think that our little trip to Dripping Springs really showed that the fish may not quite be ready in the northern part. I feel like we caught a lot of fish at that tournament that still hadn't laid eggs.
Yeah. Now, do you see with the shallower lakes versus the deeper? Yeah. Do you see with the shallower lakes versus the deeper lakes, the water temperature typically is going to be a little bit warmer in the shallower lakes, where the spawn will last longer in the deep water lakes, where they spawn earlier in the shallow?
Yeah. We fished one tournament at a deeper lake close by known as McGee Creek. And that lake is significantly deeper and a steeper type of lake, and it's got FG1s in it. And that lake, they hadn't started spawning yet. I mean, they were just starting to pull up on the north end. But that's a late spawning lake, and there's a couple like it around here.
Okay.
A lot of those lakes, like Grand Lake, where they're a lot shallower, some of our smaller spots, it heats up pretty quick. And I feel like a lot of times we kind of like run more parallel with Region 2 spawning schedule that they kind of put out, as opposed to Region 3, the one right above it.
Right.
Okay.
Now, because y'all have had some severe weather come through here in the last couple of weeks. So have you seen to where, like, has that affected the fish bite with having the severe weather that y'all have had?
Yeah, it definitely changes it. And it kind of makes it a little more confusing too, because when they have all that extra water to move around in and that abundance of food, it can go one of two ways. Like, it can be a really good bite, or it can be a really difficult bite.
Yeah.
So some of these lakes, when they get high, they get a little bit tougher to fish. I think a lot of that has to do with just the fish's ability to get away.
Right.
I just got back from Truman Lake in Missouri, and it was 13 foot high when the tournament started.
Wow.
And
that's
I didn't know
crazy.
what the fish were doing. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, because
I've never seen anything like it. That was.
Yeah, I mean, we're on Chickamauga, and we need to get you to come over this way, and we'll put you out on Chickamauga and get you on some of them toads and stuff on Chick. But Norman and I went out. What was it? Friday, Norman? We went out.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. We went out Tuesday, and which we've had like some severe weather coming through, and it was, I mean, it was brutal for the guys that were around here with the winds, and I mean, we had some tornadoes and stuff around, but it wasn't like the wet, like as bad as tornadoes and stuff like y'all had. But our water rose. I read somewhere to where Chickamauga rose 6 foot within 36 hours.
Yeah.
Norman and I were talking about it. Like when it rises, I have no problem with it with high water. I mean, because I like throwing up against the bank and throwing into bushes and downfalls and stuff like that. That just allows them fish to be able to get up into the bushes and stuff. That I like to fish.
Well, not only that, but there was some extreme high winds too, because it woke me up the day before.
Right.
It lasted probably 24 hours, and I mean, we had some 50, 60 mile an hour winds here at the house, but there was some tornadoes touched down north of us, and we're actually seeing full trees with the root systems and all. I mean, big, huge trees, railroad ties floating down the river.
Oh yeah, it was, but like with Chickamauga, Zach, is how like Chickamauga's kind of like in a bowl. So, and the Tennessee River flows through it. So anything that's east of us and like northeast or pretty much is all coming down. So anything that's on the mountains is coming down into Chickamauga. So that's the reason why we got 6 foot of water that went up pretty quick. Norman, they had, I mean, it was storm after storm that they had, that it was like 3 weeks of nothing, but it was just, all I heard was tornadoes coming through, but I mean, they are in the tornado belt, so, but, so that's the reason why I wanted to know, like, how that severe weather affected, especially during the spawn, because right now, I mean, we're on the last end of the spawn. We still have some fry garters, and we still have some of them that are still kind of spawning right now. But then we got that post spawn. Mm-hmm. But that's the reason why I was wanting to ask, because water rising up that much, I mean, it threw them for a loop real quick. With it rising and then muddy is what it was.
Well, at Truman, I didn't really know what the fish were doing other than they were up shallow. And so I started throwing a lizard a lot, and I just threw it up into the grass on the bank and just slowly drug it in. And they were following the water up, but it finally kind of slowed down. A couple of days before that, it went up like 13 feet overnight. And
that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, and like that. Well, I've noticed, like what you said, even with the water rising, if they're already on bed and they can sit on it, they're going to sit on it. But I've noticed though, if the water gets like stained or muddied up and stuff, that they're going to go to what's going to protect them. And that's when we noticed that they were more or less roaming. They were not sitting on anything. Typically, like they would be up in them bushes. And like we flip bushes, we flip docks. But, yeah, you're right. But when it gets muddy like that, that's typically my go-to, is to focus more up, kind of like what you were saying, focus more up on that bank and brush and docks and downfalls. But we done that. I mean, it was a tough bite. I mean, we just could not get anything solid as a bite. And the bites that we were getting seemed like roamers, so it wasn't that they were sitting down waiting on something.
Now, do you do any offshore fishing, Zach, or do you pretty much stay up close and personal?
Oh, no, I love deep water fishing. I picked it up a couple of years back, and I do a lot of deep fishing in the summer. So what I'll do, I have a PDL 120 Old Town, and I'll point my kayak into the wind, and I'll just slowly pedal to hold a position, and then I'll use my forward-facing sonar to find brush piles, ledges, stuff like that that's offshore, and I'll fish it with a couple of my favorite baits are a Carolina rig and a cover shot, which is just a heavier drop shot setup.
Now, what kind of setup do you have when you're throwing that cover shot? What do you, rod wise and stuff, and line that you use for that?
Well, I was listening to a podcast a while back, Taku Ito. This guy asked him what he thought the next big innovation from Japan would be, and Taku Ito said heavy finesse. So I've kind of tailored. I got a Magnum spinning rod, so it's a medium heavy spinning rod,
right?
And I've got 30 braid on that, and then I'm fishing a 15-pound, sometimes a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. But it's a big spinning setup, and I can use it for other stuff like skipping, throwing small lures with heavier line.
But that's kind of funny that because that's already been here. I mean, because like Norman and I, we will use a heavier, like a heavier drop shot. We just called it a beefed up drop shot. And but it's kind of funny that it's tailored, that it's actually more or less coming in, because we don't see too many people on Chickamauga using that.
Well, I've been using the beefed up drop shot for a long time. When I was down in Florida, it's actually one of my go-to. Florida, when I go to a drop shot, is always going to be that beefed up drop shot, bigger line, bigger. Most people talk about a drop shot finesse rig, but that beefed up drop shot, we use bigger baits going for them giants in that deeper water, like you're talking about ledge fish and stuff like that, is could be insane out in that offshore stuff.
And especially like here, when we're doing it, I mean, we could be in 25, 30 foot of water easily, being able to, and that we're throwing that and bringing something up, a monster bass in 25, 30 foot of water, there ain't nothing like it. So now let's talk about the tournament series and stuff that you are in, that you're doing right now, because you kind of got a couple of things going on for you. But let's talk a little bit about your tournament settings or series that you're in right now.
Well, the OKA series has been around for quite a few years. Some of the founders are still really involved in it, and it's a really good club, and there's a lot of great people, and it's growing right now too. Like, we're seeing close to 70, 80 people every tournament so far this year, and that's good numbers. It's fun. I mean, we get to travel all over the state of Oklahoma, and we compete at places like 10 Killer, Broken Bow Lake, Grand Lake, a lot of these Eufaula, a lot of these big lakes that the big guys come and fish too. We get to go out on those and compete.
Intimidating in a kayak to go out into like the bigger waters and stuff like that, or does it really not bother you with it?
I always tell people, don't do anything you don't feel comfortable doing, but I've got some years under my belt now, and I kind of know what to expect out there, but also I know that you can't always expect everything to happen like you want it to.
Right.
So yeah, it can be really intimidating. Some of these areas we go to, there's big barges around and stuff like that, and we can get in tight little spots, so you got to kind of really pay attention to what's going on around you. But also it's exciting, it's thrilling, because you're taking this small platform out there to big water and you're performing well in it a lot of times. Sometimes it can be hard though. I've been out in a few sketchy situations. That one gets above 30 mile an hour. No, I'm not going out.
Now, I do want to talk though real quick. because we might have people on here that's thinking like I want to get into the kayak fishing and stuff like that. Can you tell us like some kayaks that Old Town has that would be a good beginner kayak, or even if somebody's looking to maybe upgrade a kayak? So if you can kind of give us a couple of kayaks to where people can so they can have an eyeball on what to kind of look for when they're trying to get into kayak fishing.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of models, and you can tailor it to what you want to do. So some models are just a paddle, and they can be great in small ponds or rivers and stuff like that. There's lighter ones that are easier to carry if you're into that kind of thing. Or you can, beef it up a little bit and throw a pedal drive in there. And even further, they have a model above their pedal drives, autopilot, and it's got a fully integrated Minn Kota motor on it that does everything that a regular boat can.
Right.
And we just released a new model too called the EPDL, and it's a new take on an electric pedal drive. And from what I've heard, they're the fastest kayak out there right now.
Are they easy to stand up on? Because most of the time you see them, you just see people just sitting down fishing. How is it to be able to, like, if they want to stand up, let's say they're trying to sight fish and they're needing to stand up to get a little bit higher. Are they easy and are they stable enough to be able to stand on?
Yeah, I mean, most of the higher end models, they're very stable. All the Old Towns, they're sportsman models. The ones that are just paddles, they're stable enough to stand in, just like their PDLs are. It takes a little bit of getting used to, kind of like, riding a surfboard or a kneeboard or something like that. You got to kind of get used to what you're in, but they're very effective and very stable, but you can still fall out of them.
Yeah. And I've got a good buddy of mine, Gene Jensen, which everybody probably knows him as Fluke Master. He always tells everybody like with him, like he's sponsored by Bonafide and stuff, but his thing is, he says, I don't care what kind of kayak that you have. He said, but you need to be able to learn how to get back into your kayak. He says, because it's not if you fall, it's when you're going to fall. Because he says things do happen and you will fall in. And so he says it's just as important to be able to know how to get back into it.
Yeah, especially if you're out in those open water situations. Like, we fish in pretty big lakes, and it's always good to have a little bit of practice. And I would encourage people to take it out if they're not familiar with the kayak in the summertime. Maybe just strip it down and put a life jacket on and just see what it's capable of. Find out how easy it is to flip or flip back over in a controlled environment. Get a little bit of practice in case it ever does happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, are they fairly stable as far as rocking back and forth, or how good does your balance have to be if you're a beginner kayaker wanting to get into kayak fishing? Do you have to have great balance, or are they really stability wise? Are they really stable?
They're really stable. I don't think it would take much balance just to be able to sit in one and fish. Now, when you start standing up, it can be a little rocky at first, but you got to kind of find out. There's like a secondary stabilizing point on a kayak as it tilts. Right. And once you kind of get a feel for where that's at, you just kind of know how you're setting on the wave. You can tell because your feet will kind of move with it. Just a little bit of practice, and it doesn't take much at all. I mean, as soon as I bought a standing kayak, I started standing in it, and it really improved my game a lot. So, yeah, being able to stand can be really beneficial.
Now, how do you trailer or how do you get the kayak to to the lake that you're going to fish? Do you have a trailer, or do you just throw it in the back of the truck?
I have a trailer. It's just a little bit easier because I can leave my crates on there strapped down, and it's a little bit easier for me to launch and set up at most places.
Right.
There are some benefits to having a truck and just carrying it in the bed. You're able to access more places and launch more places, but generally I just find a boat ramp and launch from it.
Right.
Okay.
So when you're fishing a tournament, are you having, because like everybody, they have a game plan of what they're trying to do. So when you go into a tournament, are you able to, like, let's say you want to focus on this point or this boat ramp here because I've got a mile or so that I know that's got the bank that I'm wanting to fish, and can you take the kayak out of there, or are you stuck there in a tournament, or can you go to like plan B?
Yeah, so you can leave your spot in the day and go to, let's say you start on the south side, it's blown out. That's been happening a lot around here. You can load up and go to the north side as long as it's a legal launching point, and that means anybody can publicly launch from there. You
Right.
can, and as long as it's on the lake, that's
Right.
the lake or lakes that are allowed.
Right.
So that's how we open it up and make it a little bit safer, a little bit easier for kayaks to get around.
Now, I was going to ask you, Zachary, when in a tournament situation, when you catch a fish, of course, kayak fishermen or kayak anglers quite a bit different than like your bass boat type of a tournament deal, where you basically measure your catch. How does a kayak anglers in a tournament record the catch, though? Is it something that logs into an app, or how do you actually keep it recorded what you're measuring throughout the day?
So there's an app called TourneyX. There's another one called iAngler. There's several different ones out now. I think fishing, I can't remember them all, but our club uses TourneyX, and so you have to turn your location settings on in your phone, and there's an identifier code that's given out the night before the event, and that's used in the photo of the fish as a way of judging that fish was caught that day, and then they use the location to tell that you were in fact fishing on legal waters.
I got you. So you actually got to measure the fish and take a
Yeah.
picture of it when you catch it before you release it.
Yeah. So that's the format's called CPR, and that means catch, photo, release. So
Got you.
you land it, you get your board out, you take one picture of it or a couple of pictures of it, make sure it's good, and then you let the fish go right there, and it gets to go back to wherever it was at.
Right.
So I think that's really good for the fish, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Now is kayak fishing, is it like accessible for, like, let's say you have like a 13, 14-year-old kid that wants to kayak fish or wants to fish in tournaments? Is kayak fishing a way how they can get involved into kayak fishing?
Yeah, if you're 14, you'd have to get your parents' consent, and it'd be good if you had a parent to start to help you with it. But at the same time, one of the challenges is, they'll have to fish as themselves. So, like they
Right.
couldn't receive help from another angler while they're doing their thing. But I mean, a lot of these 14-year-olds now, they're pretty good, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see some young guys start turning up. There's one that won at Dardanelle, and I think he was 16, if I remember right. He's still in high school.
Golly.
So they're out there, and there's some hammers too.
Yeah, because I know that I fished in a tournament that allowed younger anglers to fish, but they could not captain the boat. They could not. They had to fish pretty much like as a co-angler. It could not be to where they actually guided the boat.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with kayak fishing. I don't think that link has really been made yet between, you know, like a high school league for kayak fishing. But I mean, anything's possible these days, and I think if, you know, there's enough parent involvement that it could become a thing, just like, you know, all the other stuff that's going on in the kayak world.
Yeah. Now, what is your goals for your fishing goals for, like, let's say the next 5 years? Do you have a plan to where I want to be fishing the Bassmaster Kayak Series or whatever it is, the KBF? And we really not. I mean, we don't talk too much about kayakers. So if I say something wrong, forgive us. So, but what is your 5-year goal for fishing?
One would be to make this, you know, how I make my living. You know, I'd love to do this for a living because, you know, this is who I am.
Yeah.
But, you know, like along the way, I'd like to see, you know, maybe a top 10 angler of the year finish this year. You know, always like bringing home trophies. So hopefully I see a couple of those in the next few years. But, you know, I'm also looking at other stuff too. So there's no telling where this sport and this passion are going to take me. But I'm going to keep on taking steps towards achieving that goal.
Yeah, you got to keep your head down and just keep on digging, man. And I mean, I know just the time that I've talked to you, I mean, I've enjoyed talking to you because because this is like Norman and I, when we're talking to a kayak fisher or an angler, I mean, it's brand new waters for us. So that's the reason why it might seem that it might be to where you're like, man, that's the easy questions and stuff. But we're trying to be able to get to where we understand it. I mean, because who knows, Norman and I might go out and buy us a kayak and do it ourselves too. So, but
well, I'm happy to help because it's really growing right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really fun to be a part of. So, you know, I'm all about, you know, helping beginners out if they need some advice, if they want to message somebody and get some information without a lot of that social media hate you see these days, then, you know, I'm open for it. And you know, I want to help the next generation make this better than what it is. I'd like to see it, you know, like maybe these tournaments televised like the Bassmasters are.
Yeah, and I really think just from what I've seen, I mean, because kayak fishing has really opened up the online fishing aspect of things, but I really do think that it could be televised. The only problem would be is having to go and find the kayak angler for the person or for the camera crew.
Yeah.
That would be the only problem. I mean, because if they're in a boat and you're back up in a creek that's they can't get through, then you're just kind of so I can kind of see where it is difficult to find unless they have like somebody. If it's a multiple day, kind of like what Bass does, they pick pick 10 people to go out, and they're following that 10 people. Then the next day they pick the top 10, and I could see them doing that. That would be something I think that would be very interesting for people.
Exactly, and you know, Colin, I kind of could see it going that way. Just due to the fact that how big kayak fishing is becoming. I mean, you got to look at it this way. Look at the Bassmaster Classic. They have the Kayak Series Bassmaster Classic, basically, where they actually, you know, come in to the Bassmaster stage setting to determine a winner for the Kayak Series. So it's getting so big in that aspect that I could very well see, you know, in a year, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, that it actually might go the route of at least the bigger series like the Bassmaster Kayak Series getting televised.
And Old Town's done a lot to help in that aspect. They do media coverage of the Classic every year, which I think is really cool. They'll bring in some of their anglers and interview them, and then they put a media boat out there on the water and they do some recording.
Right.
But it'd be it'd take several boats and a lot of investment on the tournament, people's part to make that a reality. But it's not impossible, and it's not, kayak fishing isn't going anywhere.
No, it's not. And because can you talk a little bit about because I know if you're wanting to go get into a brand new fiberglass boat right now, you're looking at $80,000 to $100,000 to have one set up and rigged, and that might not even be something that, you can always go and tournament fish in any kind of boat and stuff like that. But if you're wanting to get a brand new boat, that's what you're looking at, to have it all decked out and stuff. So let's say, like for the kayak, let's say somebody wants to have a kayak that, let's just say, pedal drive, that has the accessibility to have the power pole micro on it and a trolling motor with a forward facing sonar or something like that. What are they looking at in price range? Because I know, like, there's a difference in between having a 9-inch screen and a 12-inch screen and stuff like that. But let's just say somebody's just wanting to just to be able to get out there to where they can be comfortable out there fishing tournaments.
Your basic setup, kind of, if you were a beginner going into it, just what would it be for your basic setup for a kayak?
My first kayak I bought when I was about 14, and it was like $150 little 10-foot sit-in kayak. I barely had enough room for me and a tackle box and a pole, but it got me where I wanted to go. But generally speaking, for the more modern style kayaks, like you say, a pedal drive with the power pole and the fish finder, you could DIY it for pretty cheap, or you could spend close to $6,000 on a setup pretty quick.
If you're looking at it as money aspect, would you rather go and spend $6,000 on a kayak and have it all decked out, or would you rather go spend $100,000 on a fiberglass boat? $6,000 is going to be a lot easier for somebody to pull out of a pocket than it is to pull out $100,000.
But also with the other aspect, it could probably get to be almost very similar to like decking out a bass boat too, because with all the accessories you got today, the electronics, everything else that you could actually put on the kayak, once you start adding everything, so I guess it just depends on what you want to put on it too, because when you buy the kayak, you're basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zachary, but you're just basically buying just like if you went in just to buy the bass boat, you buy the boat motor and trailer, and then you kind of rig the boat yourself what you want to put on it. So the price of electronics and everything else that you could actually add to it, could go up. It just depends on what you want to do to it.
Yeah, for sure. If you can get really carried away with it really quick, but I always try to be budget friendly, and like $6,000 is a far cry from $100,000 to get you on the water with a really good setup that works. And times are tough these days. And, there's a lot of people that have a tighter budget right now, and there's a big spike in the amount of people that started looking into kayak fishing around the time COVID hit, and since then it's kind of gone down a little bit, but people are back to work now, and but it's still, I think it's going to come back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I believe that, fishing has grown tremendous, like what you said, since COVID. We have kind of seen it plateau, but I still think that it is by far reached its peak of what it's going to be. Would you prefer you said you like to ledge fish, but do you prefer to be out to fish a body of water that has that capability for you to ledge fish, or would you rather be up shallow?
Man, like right now, I've been fishing shallow for a minute here, and a lot of high flooded water. I've been flipping bushes. I'm tired of it. I'm ready for some offshore stuff to start happening. Some good point action. Getting out on some humps and stuff like that, and drift fishing. I really enjoy the deep water summertime stuff. That's some of my favorite type of fishing to do. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing like slinging some grass with a craw, but I mean, I'm ready for some deep stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Now you talked a little bit ago about the Carolina rig, Zachary. What's your favorite technique when you're fishing offshore? Do you still throw the Carolina rig, or do you have something else you like to go to?
When I first started fishing deep out of a kayak, the Carolina rig was a really easy choice because when you learn how to cast it, you can cast it a mile, and you can drag basically any kind of structure offshore with it. I mean, it handles exceptionally well in trees and gives a different look to the fish that I think that they like. And sometimes in biggins, they'll pick up a Carolina rig different than they'll pick up a Texas rig.
Oh, yeah,
I think it's because they don't feel the weight much.
Yeah.
So getting those good hook sets in deep water with a Carolina rig, it's the way to go. And then, if it's heavy timber offshore, I'll get a little more close quarters with the cover shot, or I'll be kind of flipping the stuff, 20, 30 feet around me and fishing vertically in those trees. But, another thing that the Carolina rig is good for, though, is drift fishing. So in my older kayak, I would paddle up into the wind and go past a point, and then I'd throw the Carolina rig out, let it hit bottom. I'd set my paddle down, and I'd just drift with it.
Yeah.
And I was able to cover a lot of deep water like that.
Exactly, dude. The best technique for drift fishing.
Yeah. Now, is it easy, like on a boat, it's fairly easy for us to be able to stay, like if let's say we're drifting, for us to drift down like a ledge. Is it easy, like an offshore ledge, is it easy for a kayak to do the same thing, to be able to drift down a ledge?
Well, the rudder does help quite a bit. It helps keep you at a certain angle from the bank. But what I usually try and do is I try and look ahead at what the weather's going to do, and I try to plan accordingly by selecting areas where drift fishing may be favorable.
Okay.
Let's say the weather from deep water to shallow, or from shallow water to deep water, I'll tend to fish those banks so I can drift down everything.
Right.
But really just depends on the situation, like what how you should approach certain things like a ledge or some brush piles. But generally speaking, I always try and nose into the wind so I can just pedal slowly and hold a position, and then I can make casts at stuff.
So in a kayak, and I just, as you were saying that, talking like looking days ahead and looking kind of to see and letting that kind of judge where you're wanting to fish, to where like us in a boat, that we'll just go out there and we'll deal with it. But so in a kayak, I mean, really 15, 20 mile an hour winds can really, I mean, it makes a difference on a boat, but it really makes a difference on a kayak then.
Yeah. It can be pretty rough. So, in windy situations like that, I always try and find a nice little safe ramp to launch from. And I'll fish around the wind, but if it's bad like that, I won't fish in it. I'll try and make it work for me, as opposed to going out there and fighting it all day.
Right. So do you take your pup out with you? See, your pup's trying to get his 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah, she's had some pups, so she hasn't gone with me this year yet, but she likes to go. She really does.
So that's awesome. Now, what are some of your sponsors? You talked about Old Town and stuff, but what are your other sponsors that you have that helps you out to be able to get out there and fish these tournaments?
Of course, there's iBass 360. I reached out to Rob Zorn and Eric Evans a while back, and they kind of took me in and let me do my thing. And I started writing articles for them, and now I'm part of a little online magazine. That's pretty cool. And, I can't thank them enough for all the help that they've given me over the years and continue to give me. Of course, Old Town, also great sponsor. They make great kayaks, and even if they weren't sponsoring me, I'd still be telling you all about them because I'm all about them. And then I got Michael Gray over at the Real MVPs. He makes all of my jigs and spinner baits for me, and he does a really good job matching the hatch and doing colors for me. Then Bass Dad, he's a custom lure painter that was kind enough to donate some lures to us for the coming season. So we had some prizes to give away at our new little jackpots, and he's put together some really cool hard baits for me, some big glides and some square bills, jerk baits, stuff of that nature. He makes some really good stuff. And I hope I'm not missing anybody, but also my family.
Yeah.
For supporting me, because they're my closest and my constant supporters, and couldn't do it without them and my wife. Letting me do my thing.
Yeah, and that's and I mean, we know exactly like what you're talking about. I mean, because with what we do and stuff like that, we're out on the water 4 or 5 times a week. We go have these trips where we go and video for bass, we video for the MLF and stuff like that. And so having that support and that family behind you, it really means a lot to help with support and stuff like that, to kind of keep you motivated on it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure they get tired of me talking about fishing, but they always have an ear to listen.
They're like, just shut up, come on. So what is what is your biggest bass that you've caught?
It's a 25 3/4 inch fish. It weighed 11 1/4 pounds, and I caught it late August of 2018
on a kayak.
Yeah, on my Old Town Vapor, my little 10-foot sit-in kayak, the first one that I really fished out of, offshore on a Carolina rig.
Did it pull you around?
Did it tow you around a little bit?
It was a hell of a fight, I'll tell you that. It made a couple of huge jumps, and when I saw it the first time, my legs instantly felt like Jell-O, and I had to fight it out of a tree on a ledge in about 15-20 feet of water. It was wild, but I was anchored off, luckily, and that's how I got it out of the tree.
Yeah,
because I don't think I would have landed it had I not dropped anchor and stopped.
Right.
I think it would have won the fight. It would have worked me to it.
Yeah.
But it was really awesome. I've caught a couple other pretty good sized fish. I got 2 or 3 10-pounders and a handful of 9s and 8s and 7s. But there's some big ones out here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So, well, that being said, we've had you almost an hour on here, brother. This fat boy is hungry, so
you're always hungry.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just fat and hungry, and but
you gotta eat that full figure going there, Colin.
yeah. I've been working. I didn't eat lunch today. I've been working on the computers all day. So, but Norman, ask our last question that we asked everybody, and let's go from there, brother.
That's right, man. Well, anyway, we're going to ask that last question. Zachary, we ask this question to pretty much everybody that we either interview or comes on the podcast. But before we do that, we want to give a shout out for our next week's episode. Guys, make sure to catch us same time, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which we're on every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we have Bassmaster Elite Series. I don't even want to say up and coming star. He is a star rookie, leading AOI Angler of the Year points right now. Trey McKinney is going to join the show next week, so it's going to be a show you don't want to miss. And also this Thursday, when actually this episode airs, I want to give a congratulations to my grandson Gage. He's actually going to be graduating high school. His graduation is 6 p.m. this Thursday, so I am going to be at his graduation when we're airing this episode. So congratulations to Gage, man. Stay strong. You're a great kid, and you're going to do some big things in this world, dude. So congratulations to you. Can't wait to see you walk down the aisle and accept your diploma. But anyway, let's get back to end the show, man. Zachary, if you were able to fish with one person, and this person could be passed away or still with us, but you're able to fish with this one person, who would that person be, and why would you want to fish with this one person?
It'd be my grandpa, because you never know how many of those trips you have left.
That is true.
That's awesome, dude.
That is true. Man. I really appreciate you coming on, and Norman and I both do, and giving us the insight. And I hope that people will take that advice. And if they have any questions, reach out to him. He's on Facebook, Instagram, and you also have a YouTube channel, correct?
Yes. Yeah. YakZach75 on all my handles, Instagram, TikTok. I don't do much on those, but I do a lot of shorts on YouTube, so I've got some stuff over there that might help you figure out a DIY project, like rigging your live scope, setting up a transducer, battery. I got some helpful stuff on there. I try to keep it short and easy to understand. So,
heck yeah. So, guys, make sure you go and check him out on YouTube and stuff as well, and like and subscribe to it, and watch and follow what he does, and he does give some helpful advice and stuff like that on there as well. So make sure you go and subscribe to his channel, and that's all I gotta say.
iBass 360 too.
Yes, and you said something. I meant to say something while you said that. When you said it earlier, iBass360.com, the magazine is on their website. Go check that out. It is phenomenal magazine with anglers from all over the United States. So they're giving advice and stuff from wherever they're at. Zach's written into it. Norman's written into it. And go check them out and holler at them, and holler at Zach if you have any questions, especially if you're out in Oklahoma, or if you're wanting to be able to rig up a kayak. Make sure you holler at Zach. And so other than that, that's all I got to say, brother.
Thanks, brother. We appreciate you, Zachary. And remember, everybody always, you want to live the passion.
Yep, live the passion, guys. Hope to see you out on the water.